Buenos dias, all. RGT85 here. Welcome to Summer Game Fest season. Got off with a fart yesterday. Make sure you guys check out my video on Summer Game Fest. Jeff, if you had to sum up Summer Game Fest in just a couple words, how would you call it?
It's all about the comb.
All right, that's pretty accurate. But of course, we have some other stuff to talk about. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to start things off with another presentation that happened yesterday that wasn't a Summer Game Fest related thing. It was actually the Devolver digital presentation. Now, they're kind of a weird company, and I'm a weird person, so I can usually relate to it. But this one, I don't know, man. This presentation was a little bit off the rails for me. It was like, let's see how many drugs we can do and come up with the presentation. And that seemed to be what their motif was. And I think on that sort of aspect, they definitely nailed it. But they did announce some new games. And honestly, one of these games that they announced at their presentation was better than every new game announcement that we got at Summer Game Fest presentation. And I say that with zero hyperbole because it actually looked sort of different. It actually looked fun. It actually looked interesting. And that game is called The Plucky Squire. Now, when you're first watching this trailer, you're kind of like, okay, you know, this is, you know, it looks like a basic sort of indie game. I get what they're doing with the 2D sort of, you know, storytelling aspect of the game. You're flipping through the pages of a book. That's all sort of cool. All the different pages have different gameplay mechanics. Okay, you know, I could get on board with that. But then the game just like turns itself on its head and turns into like, I guess you would call it like Toy Story. Like, these environments that you're looking at in the book end up becoming reality, and then you're moving around in these environments, and it's just like, holy shit, that's genius. This game looks so freaking good, and I was like, this is the kind of stuff, you know, that should have been at Summer Game Fest, not some weird CGI trailer where you just have a bunch of, you know, stuff that's not pertinent to the gameplay. This is actually how the game is going to play. This is how the game is going to feel. And I just think the creativity is off the charts, and really the product that they're putting out there looks absolutely phenomenal. It looks absolutely phenomenal. This game, a lot of people didn't really hear about it because they didn't watch the Devolver digital thing, and you know, you probably should because they are fun events, but I love this game. I love this game. This has been my favorite announcement thus far from like Summer Game Fest season. I don't know what the hell we call this. Like, I miss E3. I miss E3 because everything is structured, everything is simple. You know when the events are going to happen, you know who's doing what and when they're doing it, and this is just a smorgasbord. It's just throw crap at the wall and see whatever sticks. But there was some other cool stuff there. There was this game, the skateboarding game. I don't fully recall the name of it, but you're like a demon made out of glass, and when you fall, you break. Just a lot of interesting stuff out of Devolver Digital. But out of all the games that they showed, The Plucky Squire, definitely a game that's on my radar. This game will be coming to all platforms: PC, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox. So no matter where you play, you'll be able to play this game, and I'm super excited for it. Hopefully we get some more sort of, you know, under the radar announcements like this, and I could bring them to your guys' attention. So let me know what you think of The Plucky Squire in the comment section down below. And did you watch the Devolver digital presentation, and how much cocaine did they do? Next up on Sunday, everyone is looking forward to the Xbox Bethesda presentation happening during Summer Game Fest season. And before we get into the topic that I want to talk about, I do want to go on a little bit of an aside here. Drop this Xbox Bethesda name. There's no reason for it. You own other companies besides Bethesda. You own Rare, you own Activision. You're not called Xbox, Activision, Bethesda, Rare. No, you're just Xbox. I don't understand why Bethesda has to be in the name of it, especially when Bethesda releases like one game every couple years if you're lucky as far as a new title is concerned. But obviously there's going to be a lot of fun stuff at Xbox's presentation. Fingers crossed for Forza Motorsport 8, because I'd really like to see that as an alternative to Gran Turismo 7, because that game is still driving me crazy. But Xbox has obviously been sort of going to the beat of their own drum this generation. They're kind of like a weird Nintendo in a way, is where they just do whatever they want, and you know, they're not really worried about the competition. Well, one thing that we've all been looking forward to, at least from a, you know, information standpoint, is what is the future of Xbox consoles? You know, is this a company that will be continuing to produce consoles? Because honestly, to me, and I've said this for a while now, you can go back and check my track record, I always feel like Xbox sort of wants to get out of the hardware manufacturing side of things, because it's not really their profits. Their profits come from things like Game Pass. Obviously, they're doing things like xCloud to expand upon that, and Game Pass PC. But what if you don't need an Xbox whatsoever? You don't even need a PC to play Xbox games. It's just built into your television. Well, after being heavily rumored, that is indeed coming. What's next for gaming? According to Xbox, they're building the gaming platform for the next 20 years. This Sunday at the Xbox Bethesda game. Stop calling it that. Stop it. Bethesda, piss off. You delay all your games. So basically, here's what's happening. They are bringing an Xbox app to Samsung 2022 smart TVs. They're bringing xCloud gaming to more countries, blah, 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 blah. They're bringing an app to smart TVs. So how is this going to work? Well, basically, you just download an app, you get a controller. You can use obviously Xbox branded controllers and stuff like that, and then you just play it. You stream it right onto your television without needing any sort of hardware. Now, we have seen other companies do stuff like this. Obviously, Google Stadia was sort of, a part of this, and Amazon Luna, I think it's called, is doing that. But those companies, really, in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to actual video games, they're kind of incremental. Xbox is one of the 3 pillars of video game hardware manufacturers. They're one of the biggest companies out there. And this is a very interesting decision, because this, like, what do you need? How are the quality of these games? That's obviously going to be a big thing, but what's my incentive to buy an actual Xbox console if I could just play it on my television? If I can just play it on my PC? It seems like the reasoning for owning an Xbox console is kind of dwindling. Now, you could take that any way you want. You could look at that as a negative thing. You could look at that as a positive thing. I kind of have mixed feelings about it, but I think the big question is, obviously, xCloud has some speed bumps. I've tried to play Halo Infinite. I remember one night there was a Knicks game on, and Spawnwave was like, "Oh, let's play Halo," and I was like, "Whatever." So I hopped on Halo. I went on my Chromebook and used xCloud to play it, and it was unplayable. You can play a lot of games on there, especially single player games, but like online multiplayer games, it was damn near unplayable. Like, there was just so much lag, input lag, server lag, and I have very good internet, so that shouldn't have been a problem. So how are the games going to play on your television? That's sort of a thing. Obviously, from a competitive standpoint, I don't see this as being the be all end all, but single player games, why not? Slower paced games. So this is going to be very interesting. Xbox is, looking at expanding into TVs as an application. And that's something that, I've been saying that I felt that they were going to do, because it just kind of makes sense with their branding. It kind of makes sense about how they are looking at the future. So maybe you don't need a console anymore. And then that's a whole nother debate for another day. Should we get rid of consoles and just make things like this? I have a lot of feelings about that, but it looks like Xbox is dropping this very soon. So get ready. Get ready. And finally, 2 days ago on the channel, we of course talked about the Nintendo Direct leak that was evidently happening on Wednesday, June 15th. A whole sort of crazy story. Make sure you guys watch that video. But if you kind of want the too long didn't read version of it, basically this guy took to Reddit, who has industry ties, who has, NDAs to sign, and just said, let's screw it. I'm just gonna talk about this event that's evidently happening next week. I have other NDAs tied to it. Well, I want to give you guys an update on that situation, and then an update on the actual status of the Nintendo Direct itself, because it gets even crazier. It gets even weirder. So right after I uploaded that video, literally as I'm, adding in like cards and stuff, if you know what that is on the YouTube back end, literally as I'm hitting public and go live, that thread ended up being taken down by the author. So now I'm like, holy shit. I talked to some people through the grapevine. I actually found out the individual's name, who he is, what he works for, and all this stuff. It was a very bizarre situation, but by taking that down, my questions started to rise. It's like, well, did you get caught? Obviously, people are talking about who you are, but still the information that was inside of that made a lot of sense. Obviously, the game in question was Neon White. It seemed like that game was under embargo until next Wednesday, the 15th. He said that he had other NDA stuff that was tied to it. So it looked like a foregone conclusion. I was going to assume that this person deleted their post because they ended up getting caught. Side note, you're an idiot still if you're watching this video, because I literally had developers reach out to me, first off, and thank me for making that video, for you being a dumbass and violating NDA stuff. And then more importantly, they said, who is this individual, so we could blacklist them. The internet's a very small place, my boy. Like, don't do stupid shit like that. Like, obviously, there are things you could skirmish around. There are, boundaries that you could sort of bend, but NDAs, bro, you don't do that. You don't do that. Like, companies will come for your ass.
It's all about the comb.
chaos, and obviously this whole thing just spiraled out of control. But we have a weird update, because yesterday during Summer Game Fest, we actually got a trailer for Neon White, and it felt, honestly, it felt very sort of, you know, put together at the last second sort of thing. I'm not saying that that was included because of this and they wanted to cover their ass or something like that, the company themselves. I'm not quite sure. Jeff does seem like the kind of guy who would help out a company if they were like, yo, this dumbass leaked an email, you know, we're kind of in trouble, Nintendo's, you know, breathing down our neck. Can we do something at Summer Game Fest to sort of get the heat off of us? That does make sense. But then there's the whole other side of things where it's like, well, maybe this wasn't a part of a Nintendo Direct. You know, maybe this NDA was just literally for a review copy of the game, because the game doesn't come out until the 16th, according to the presentation that we got yesterday. The Direct is supposed to happen on the 15th. The embargo details were for the 15th, meaning essentially, well, you know, you could play this game, you can have your review up on the 15th, but the game doesn't release until the 16th. Was there any sort of correlation between that? One of the main things I harked on in that initial video was the fact that this individual said that they had other NDAs signed, basically saying that these were things that involved a Wednesday, June 15th Nintendo Direct, so he could not talk about certain things, and he could not talk about those NDAs because he signed those, but evidently, you know, those are probably worthless anyway. So what does this mean? Are we getting a Nintendo Direct next week? I don't know. I don't know at this point in time. You know, Nintendo's just batshit crazy. They're crazy. You never know what they're going to do. You never know when they're going to announce something, when they're going to bring something to the table, when this Nintendo Direct is going to happen. We all assume it's happening this month because it makes sense. You know, Nintendo usually does a June Nintendo Direct. They've been doing it for 10 years now. But what if they don't? What if they throw us a monkey wrench? I don't think they will. But what if they don't? I don't know, man. You've got other YouTubers saying that they're 99.9% sure that there's a Direct happening next week, and it's like, okay, like, good guess. Like, you're pretty much, you know, you're sniffing it out a little bit. Like, you know, it's just, it's ridiculous to me. I just wish Nintendo would just announce shit. Like, allow people to get some hype. Allow people to get excited for this. Yes, I know there's no, you know, E3 presentation, but, you know, Summer Game Fest is kind of doing its thing. Other companies are announcing their events a couple days or a week or two early, or some companies are even doing it, you know, like a couple weeks early. Now we're kind of getting down to the wire, and it's like, was there going to be a Direct? I definitely think there will be, but who knows? Who knows? Was Neon White a part of this Direct? Was this a little, you know, sort of change at the last minute to sort of cover their ass? I guess we'll find out. The conspiracies continue. Where are we going next with this? Who the hell knows? All right, so that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to give me your feedback in the comments section down below. Are you a fan of the Plucky Squire? Because you should be. It's a game. I think it looks absolutely awesome. Xbox, doing something different. Is this a good move? Bad move? Let me know. And this Nintendo Direct, do you even care at this point in time? Because I'm getting tired of it. And as always, thank you for watching this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, hit the bell notification, or go to hell. I am your king. Metroid Dread did not sell 3 million copies. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.